The first thing I heard was the chain. That ugly metallic rattle that doesn't belong in a quiet neighborhood at night. Then my whole RV shifted like somebody nudged it with a shoulder, and an orange strobe flashed across my window like a warning shot. I opened the door, and there it was, tow truck parked in my driveway hook, already lining up with my axle, like this was normal. I stepped down barefoot onto cold concrete and said, "What are you doing?" The driver didn't look proud, didn't look excited either, just tired. He said Homeowners Association called it in. They want the RV removed. And I just stared at him because my first thought was, "You've got to be kidding me." Not because I didn't like rules, because I wasn't even in their HOA. My property was never part of it, not on the deed, not on the plat map, not on anything I signed. I'd only owned the place a few weeks. Old house, decent bones, bad. Everything else, roof patches, broken trim, drywall that crumbled if you breathed on it. So I'd been living out of my RV in the driveway while I worked because the inside wasn't ready, and honestly it was safer than sleeping in a construction zone. And I kept it clean. No trash, no sewage hose hanging out, no loud generator, just a beat-up RV parked straight like a temporary tool while I fixed my own house. The kind of thing most normal people would shrug at and move on. That's when the letters started. First one looked official, Maple Ridge Homeowners Association, letterhead bold words, polite threat underneath. They said my RV was an aesthetic violation and I needed to comply with community standards. I walked it straight back inside and checked my closing packet again. Deed, parcel number, legal description, no HOA membership, no covenant packet, no fee schedule, nothing. 2 days later I saw her. Donna Whitaker, mid-50s, perfect hair, perfect sweater, perfect smile that never reached her eyes. She stood on the sidewalk like she owned it, and she pointed at my RV like it was a dead raccoon. "Ethan, right?" she said. I didn't remember telling her my name, but of course she knew it. Then she hit me with that sing-song voice, "We're going to need you to move that, because it's not allowed." I kept it calm. "I'm not part of your homeowners association." Donna tilted her head like I'd said something cute. "Everyone here follows the rules," she replied like she'd just solved the whole conversation. I went inside, grabbed copies of the documents, came back out, and held them where she could see. "No HOA. This is my deed. My lot isn't under your authority." She glanced for half a second and waved it off like a waitress ignoring a complaint. "That's complicated," she said, "but we handle it. You'll be much happier if you just join and pay your dues. Join. Pay." That's what it was really about. After that, the pressure got louder. Not just aesthetic violation, now it was unauthorized occupancy, parking enforcement, community safety. Then the fines started showing up on paper numbers that meant nothing but were meant to scare me anyway. I'd stand at my kitchen counter, well, the half kitchen, with no cabinet doors, yet reading these letters and thinking, this is insane. Not dramatic insane. Bureaucratic insane. The kind of insane that makes you realize how far some people will push if they think you won't push back. And at first I figured, okay, it's just noise. Let them send letters. Let Donna play queen of the cul-de-sac. I've got drywall to hang and wiring to redo. I don't have time for community theater. Then that tow truck showed up. The driver, Miguel Ortega, according to the name tag, kept his hands visible like he was trying to prove he wasn't the bad guy. He said, "They told me it's an HOA violation. They said you're refusing to comply." I asked him, "Did you verify ownership or authority?" He exhaled through his nose. "Man, they just schedule it. We show up." I could feel my pulse in my ears. My stomach dropped in that way it does when you realize you're about to lose a fight you didn't start. Because it's one thing to argue with Donna, another thing to watch your RV get dragged away while you're standing on your own driveway. I said, "Don't hook it yet. Give me 2 minutes." Miguel hesitated. "If I leave, I still get charged. If I tow it wrong, I'm the one in trouble." And that was the moment it clicked. This wasn't personal to him. This was a machine, and Donna was feeding it lies. I called my real estate attorney, Evan Price. He answered like he already knew it was bad news because nobody calls their closing attorney to talk about the weather. I said, "Evan, there's a tow truck in my driveway. HOA is trying to tow my RV off my property. There was a pause. Then Evan went flat, calm, professional, dangerous calm. "Send me your deed. The legal description. Any HOA letter you got. Right now." So I did. Hands shaking a little, not from fear, from anger, snapped photos, emailed them, attached everything. Miguel stood by his truck watching me like he hoped I'd come up with something that saved both of us. Evan called back fast. He said, "Your lot is not subject to Maple Ridge's covenants. They have zero authority. Put the driver on the phone." I handed Miguel my phone like it was evidence in a trial. Miguel listened, his face changing every few seconds. Not just, "oh," more like, "oh no." He handed my phone back and said, "My dispatcher says we have a note on this address now. No tow without owner authorization or a court order." And I just stood there letting that sink in. A note. Because this wasn't the first time Maple Ridge tried something like this. They just didn't expect the person they targeted to have paperwork. Miguel climbed back into his truck, and before he closed the door, he looked at me and said, "For what it's worth, I'm sorry." Then he rolled out the strobe, fading down the street. I thought that would be the end. It wasn't. Donna called me the next day like she was doing me a favor. "I'm hearing you interfered with our enforcement action," she said. I laughed short and sharp. "Your enforcement action on property you don't control." Her voice tightened. "You're being difficult." I wanted to scream, but instead I did the boring thing, the adult thing, the thing that actually works. I started documenting everything. Every letter got scanned. Every time Donna showed up, I stepped outside with my phone already recording, not pointed like a weapon, just visible. Every tow attempt got time-stamped. My neighbor across the street, Paula Jensen, noticed the pattern before I even said anything. One afternoon, she came over holding her phone like she wasn't sure if she should get involved. She said, "I've got video of that tow truck coming twice this week. If you need it, it's yours." And I remember looking at her and feeling something shift. Because up until then, it felt like me versus a system. But here was a real person, someone with nothing to gain, saying, "I see what they're doing and it's not okay." Still, I hit a wall. Not a dramatic, I'm broken wall, more like a quiet, heavy one. I'd be inside tearing out rotten baseboards, and my brain would keep replaying Donna's voice, the tow chain sound, the thought of my RV disappearing while I'm on hold with some office. There was a night I sat on the RV steps and just stared at the driveway. I didn't feel like a hero. I felt tired. I thought I bought a fixer-upper, not a war. And I could almost understand why people give in, because fighting paperwork feels like drowning in slow motion. Then my phone buzzed. Evan. He said, "I'm drafting a cease and desist. And Ethan, if they try again, call law enforcement immediately. Don't argue. Don't negotiate. Make it official." That's what pulled me back into it. Not rage, not ego, just the simple truth that if I let them bully me, once they do it forever. And sure enough, Donna tried one more time her big move. Early morning, still dark, like she wanted the whole thing done before anyone saw. I woke up to that same chain sound like a nightmare on repeat. I threw on jeans, grabbed my phone, and stepped outside to see Miguel's company again. Different driver this time, younger guy already crouched by the hitch. I didn't yell. I didn't plead. I said, "Stop. This is private property. You don't have authorization." He hesitated and said, "We have an order from the HOA." I held my phone up, screen lit, and said, "This is the deed. This is the email from your dispatcher saying no tow without owner permission. And this is my call to the police if you touch that RV." He froze. Not because I sounded tough, because I sounded certain. Donna pulled up 10 minutes later, headlights cutting across my yard like she was storming a castle. She marched over in that same perfect outfit, same perfect smile, and tried to make it sound like I was the problem. "This is a community," she announced loud enough for neighbors to hear. I said, "It's my property. You don't run it." Donna snapped back. "You're violating our standards." That's when Officer Ryan Cole arrived. He stepped out of his cruiser, looked at the tow truck, looked at Donna, then looked at me like he'd already seen this kind of nonsense 1,000 times. "Who requested the tow?" he asked. Donna lifted her chin. "The Homeowners Association." Officer Cole said, "Do you have authority over this parcel?" Donna opened her mouth, and nothing came out that sounded like a legal answer. I handed the officer my documents, deed parcel map letters, and the email chain from Evan. I didn't rant. I didn't perform. I just let the facts sit there, heavy and undeniable. Officer Cole read for maybe 20 seconds, then looked at Donna. "Ma'am," he said, "this property is not under your HOA jurisdiction. If you continue initiating removals or entering onto this property, it can be treated as harassment and trespass. Do you understand?" Donna's face went stiff, like her brain couldn't accept a world where she didn't get her way. The tow driver stood up slowly, like he'd been holding his breath. He climbed back into his truck without another word and backed out, careful, quiet, done. And Donna just stood there. No speech, no victory lap. Just a woman who'd tried to weaponize an HOA and found out paperwork doesn't care how important you think you are. A week later, Evan called and said Maple Ridge's board held an emergency meeting. Too many complaints, too many invoices from failed tow dispatches, too much legal risk. Donna Whitaker was removed as president, effective immediately. I didn't celebrate. I closed my gate, went back inside my half-finished house, and picked up my tools like I'd never put them down. Because the lesson wasn't about winning, it was about refusing to be pushed off what's yours.